Just about a block away from Washington Square Park. You can join us there as we continue our Dance for Democracy, supporting March to the Polls. Just reached Washington Square Park. You can join us anytime. Here, Dance for Democracy, supporting March to the Polls. As soon as our musicians and our band and our people get ready, we will begin once more the live stream. Once again, we're in Washington Square Park. You can come join us to Dance for Democracy. And here we go. Once again, we're here in Washington Square Park as we are dancing for democracy to support March to the Polls, Extinction Rebellion, New York City, live stream. And we will go around Washington Square Park now to share some joy and to inspire people to vote today.
of early voting here in New York State. Amazing. Thank you guys. Thank you guys all so much for coming out today to support us. Today, we have so much at stake. Today is the first day of early voting in New York. It is also National Early Vote Day. This is a huge day across the country because right now, you can vote in most states across the country. And you know what? Actually, right by here at NYU is a polling location. We want to make sure that everybody is aware of what is happening right now with our elections. So much is at stake in our democracy right now. Climate justice is at stake in this election.
That's right.
Social justice is at stake in this election.
That's right.
Civil rights are at stake in this election.
That's right.
And we have to make sure that we are organizing and that we are making sure people get to the polls. My name is Saad Amer. I am the co-founder of Plus One Vote, an organization that's dedicated to getting out the vote and improving the representation of young people, of people of color, of the LGBTQ in our democracy. And we have to make sure that we are organizing people actively to get out and vote. The reality is that activism starts with one. Your plus one. It's the person that you're going to take with you personally to the polls to make change. In a democracy, change only happens when we make that change. In a democracy, it only works when we are organized. If we're not putting in the work, if we're not making things change, don't expect anything to change. It's on us. It's always been on us. And if we don't take accountability for what's going on in our country, things are not gonna change. I believe that we have the ability to fundamentally change this country. Already 50 million people have voted in this election. That's a record number of people who have already voted. Yeah. A record number of people have voted. And I know that we can get a record number of youth to turn out and vote.
That's right. Youth vote.
Yes, let's get out that youth vote. See, they like to tell us that young people are not capable. They like to tell us that young people don't vote. And then they like to just unleash a pandemic on us. They like to unleash all sorts of racial tensions across our country. They like to ensure that we have an unlivable planet by not addressing the climate crisis. Are we going to stand up for that?
No.
Are we going to go out and vote out every politician who won't make change? Absolutely. And today is our opportunity to do that. We have a series of speakers from movements that have been marching and organizing across this country today for our March to the Polls. See, this March to the Polls is a union of movements. We have organizers from the Black Lives Matters movement, from March for Science, from the Black Women's March, from Pride. All sorts of people are coming together around this election to make change. And if we don't go out and vote, it's not going to change. And so the first person who's going to be speaking today is a young gentleman who is actually the reason why the nearby polling place at NYU exists. So I'd like to hand off the mic to you.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Hamilton Brooks. I'm field director at Generation Vote at NYU, and I would like to thank you to the Plus One campaign for having me here. I would like to spend a few moments of your time talking about what brought us here today and what brings me here. We are here not simply because we wanted to, but because a long generational struggle has led us here. I'm here today because of a man named Middle Passage. Middle Passage was an Army veteran who had multiple open heart surgeries, and when my father and I, with the NAACP, wanted to go down to the Edmund Pettus Bridge and march from Selma to Washington, D.C., a march of 1,000 miles, Middle came. After 4 open heart surgeries, Middle came. About 700 miles into the march, in Southern Virginia, Middle Passage pulled up to a stop sign. He unfurled his flag that he had been holding the entire way, and he fell and he died in front of the entire march. As everyone stood there crying, praying, one girl said, if he was willing to march 1,000 miles with multiple heart surgeries in the way, surely we can go harder for the right to vote ourselves. How far are you willing to go? How much harder are we willing to work? We have to go harder for the vote. Since 2016, the efforts to suppress the youth vote have intensified. They have suppressed through the systematic removal of early voting and election day poll sites at many of the city schools and across the country. They, whether intentional or not, suppress by misplacing 100,000 votes in Brooklyn on the eve of elections. All of these tactics apply to a group of people in college students, and youth in general who aren't even aware that their vote is being suppressed. We at Jim Vote are happy that the collective efforts from our organization, NYU administration, and student government have led us to the opening of NYU's Skirball Center, 566 LaGuardia Place, right next to Kimmel right there, as an early voting location. We are encouraged by the fact that on social media, we are producing and directing students to resources that will help them lead and vote in their communities to a degree that has not been seen in a long time at NYU's undergraduate level. We have students planning to poll watch across the entire country on, before, and after November 3rd. These advancements are directly in response to the challenges that specifically college youth face while voting. Still, and I use his words as inspiration as I write, I would like to point you all towards the words of the late great Malcolm X. In 1963, one of Malcolm X's last speeches, he told the University of California of a crisis that doesn't sound all too unfamiliar to 2020. He said, quote, "This entire country is on the verge of erupting into racial violence and bloodshed because 20 million ex-slaves here in America are demanding freedom, justice, and equality from their former slave masters. I would like to point out, it's truly amazing how mad this country gets when the word equality is spoken. It is truly amazing how mad this country gets when women ask for equality, the right to determine their own destiny, to have control of their own bodies. It is truly amazing how mad this country gets when we ask that black trans women not be killed in the street in cold blood. It's truly amazing how mad this country gets when youth attempt to take control of a climate that they will inherit. What we put into our activism is what we get out. It is not enough to simply vote, just like it was never enough to post a black square on your Instagram feed. We have to stay vigilant, understand, and analyze the forms of suppression that we encounter, from dark money in elections to knowing what color ink you need to use on your ballot.
Right.
As I conclude, don't get it twisted. 2020 is a reckoning, just as Malcolm said in 1963, and it ain't just because of COVID. It is because every single one of our lives rests on that ballot. This is it. Now is not the time to rest. Now is not the time to falter. Middle Passage gave his life to protect my vote as well as all of yours. How far are you willing to go? How far are you willing to go for our climate? For LGBT life, for black life, for BIPOC life, for vote unsuppressed. How far are you willing to go? Thank you for having me. I look forward to seeing all of you in the field. Thank you.
Amazing. The youth of today are changing our futures for tomorrow. But I want to take a second to acknowledge the situation that we're in. Let me say that again. We are in a pandemic. And the reason for that is because of the denial of science. We have consistently been fraught with politicians who are not acknowledging the reality of the world out there. Even right now, at this very march to the polls, we are on the front line putting our lives at risk of this deadly virus. It is essential that we put better people in place in our politics who believe in science. If we don't have people who are believing in science, we're going to continue to see pandemics like this. We're going to continue with the climate crisis. And so our next speaker today is a PhD student. She is brilliant. She's leading change and pushing science directly from her laboratory. And she is an organizer with the March for Science. Yeah!
I'm a graduate student in biomedical research in New York, and I'm a member of March for Science New York City. And I'm here to share why we need to vote based on science today when we march to the polls. Science is integral to a well-functioning society. Even though science is often portrayed as something distant in the labs of the ivory tower, it's actually all around us. Science is essential for a good infrastructure, for education, for healthcare, and for so many other things. Also, science is essential for combating the challenges that we face, including the pandemic and the climate crisis. But for the past 3.5 years, there has been an attack on science by our government. They have ignored, silenced, hindered, and falsified science in order to move forward with their own agenda. They have censored government reports from the EPA and the CDC, and they have censored scientists from speaking to the press. We need to vote for leaders who will listen to science, not try to push it out of the way when evidence interferes with their plans.
That's right.
The most alarming of these anti-science actions has been the abysmal response to the COVID-19 pandemic. We have lost over 220,000 American lives, and millions more have been infected with COVID-19. To put this into perspective, the U.S. population is 4% of the total global population, yet we have 20% of the total global COVID-19 cases. And a new report from Columbia University predicts that we could have saved 130,000 of these lives if we had listened to the science and enacted evidence-based policies used by other nations. So this is totally unacceptable. In addition to the failed response to the pandemic, our leaders in the White House and across the country have failed in their response to the issue of racism that's still present.
Yes.
We have seen leaders refuse to denounce white supremacy, and recently a new executive order was signed to ban racial sensitivity training at agencies that receive federal funding, which includes our research institutions and could include universities. This refusal to address both overt and systematic racism harms our scientists of color. It also eliminates programs that could help to eradicate implicit bias that still exists amongst our researchers and our medical professionals. And it hinders an equitable society where science is available and accessible to all. We need to vote for leaders who will use evidence-based policy for social and racial justice. Finally, we need competent leadership to deal with the ongoing climate crisis, not leadership that denies its existence. The lack of concern for environmental protection from the U.S. will only exacerbate the current health inequities driven by systemic racism. Data has made it clear that environmental differences, such as poor air quality, really contributed to the disproportionate number of COVID-19 cases and deaths amongst Americans of color compared to white Americans. Also, habitat destruction is leading to a closer interaction of human society with wildlife, which provides more opportunities for viruses to spread and evolve to infect humans and for future pandemics. So leadership that listens to science and evidence to promote social justice will be able to curb this pandemic and future ones, will reverse the damage done to our planet, and can make a more equitable society. So today we will vote. But our work isn't done after voting, and we need to continue to fight for science and for evidence-based policies, no matter who is in power. So join us at March for Science, New York City, as we continue to fight for science to be used for a more just world and a healthier planet. Thank you.
Science is under attack. What do we do? Stand up, fight back.
Okay. What do you do when science is under attack? Stand up and fight back.
Amazing. It is so essential that we continue to push for science and we continue to elect leaders who believe in science. We need to put people in power who care. We need to put people in power who are going to take action. Our next speaker is someone who has been fighting for quite some time. They are actually running for office right now. A young person, a member of the LGBTQ community, a drag queen, and a local legend. We have Marty Cummings.
Thank you everyone for coming out today, and for those of you who are in the park just enjoying the day, hear this message that our democracy is under attack. Our democracy is under attack by a fascist, white supremacist regime that is occupying the White House unjustly, actively working to roll back the rights of women, to roll back the rights of immigrants, to roll back the rights of LGBTQIA plus people, to roll back the rights of our black community. And it is time that we take a stand and activate our voices. It is time that we take a stand and go to the polls and vote. And then when you're done voting, hold every single person that is in office accountable. Call them, question them, talk to them about the issues, and demand justice in this country. Demand justice for the marginalized voices who are being pushed down by an administration that stole the White House. An administration that is actively working to dismember our system of justice. An administration that is pushing through a Supreme Court nomination of someone who doesn't care about you. They only care about the agenda of packing the courts to roll back the rights of people. We need to take a stand, and take a stand for every single person who is being pushed down. No longer can the wealthy, straight, white man tell us what to do, because that is what this country serves, is straight men. And listen, I love straight men. I love my dad. He's a great guy. But we need to have rights for every single person in this country, whether you are a citizen or you are undocumented and coming here to have a better life for your family.
You're a boy. He's not straight. He's a bisexual pedophile.
So go and vote. Today is early voting. Early voting goes through November 1st. If you are not able to vote in person, you can get your absentee ballot through the 27th. So use your voice. Vote for justice. Vote for real change. And stand up against bigotry, xenophobia, homophobia, transphobia, misogyny. Stand up against hate and fight back for justice.
What do we do when our country is under attack?
Stand up, fight back!
What do we do when our civil rights are under attack? What do we do when our planet is under attack?
Stand up, fight back!
We stand up and we fight back. Tell me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like!
Show me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like!
Tell me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like!
Show me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like!
This is what democracy looks like. Democracy looks like us coming out, mobilizing, and organizing. The reality is that what is at stake in this election, from the science to the homophobia to the bigotry to the planet, it's on us. It's on us to keep fighting, to keep pushing, and to make that change. It starts with one. your plus one? Who is the one person that you're going to take with you to the polls? Don't come crying to me on November 4th if nothing changes. All right, right now is the first day of early voting, and we must continue to organize and bring people out to vote. It's on us. Right now, you can vote right now in New York State. There is a polling place right over there at the NYU Skirball Center for Performing Arts. If that is your designated polling place, we want you to go out there and vote. If you don't know your polling place, your early voting site, you can go to findmypollsite.vote.nyc and look up your polling place right there.
No democracy.
Thank you guys so much for coming out. This democracy only happens when we fight for it. And we're going to keep on fighting and organizing and marching to the polls. Thank you. Tell me what democracy looks like.
Nationalize the Fed.
Show me what democracy looks like.
Nationalize the Fed.
Whose streets? Whose streets? Whose city?
Nationalize the Fed.
Whose city? Whose vote? Whose vote?
Nationalize the Fed.
That's right. This is our vote. And we're going to organize, mobilize, and march to the polls. Thank you.
Nationalize the Fed.
This concludes our live stream today for Extinction Rebellion as we dance for democracy and we support March to the Polls today in Washington Square Park. Thank you for being with us. Have a good day.